What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Slate Thursday Sports Edition, although we'd be lying to you if we said we were going to do anything other than NFL because, damn it, football's back. First game of the season tonight in LA, Los Angeles. The defending champion LA Rams playing host to the prohibitive betting favorites, the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, that's a real sentence in 2022. Adam Kaufman, Jeff Ulrich, Nick Fryer. It's good to be with you guys. It's good to have football back, fellas.
Fantastic.
Yes, could not be happier.
Yeah, to try and contain your excitement. let's get into it, okay?
I mean, it's just I'm just, I'm ready for the game, man. That's all. That's it.
I know. Well, listen, we're going to have to tell people how they should be betting and how they should be building their lineups over the next, 2.5 hours, 3 hours that we've got basically until lineups lock. So let's do that. It is an 8:20 Eastern lock, so that does put us at roughly 3 hours. And, some of the key facts and figures, and we'll show you if we're not already some of what is available to you on the DraftKings Sportsbook. The Bills, obviously, they're the 2.5-point favorites. The over-under for this game tonight is 52. Those are some of your more basic lines, and obviously you can get the Rams at plus 140 on the money line, whereas the Bills are at -1 or plus 120 on the money line. Bills minus 140. For my money, guys, and Jeff, will start with you. I like the Rams tonight at plus 2.5. How do you think this one's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the line to me feels like it should be closer to just like a pick 'em. I think that the Rams getting almost 3 points at home. It just feels like an overreaction, and it's an overreaction to how we saw the Bills go out last year, which was playing insane football, losing a heartbreaking game, which they really almost shouldn't have lost to the Chiefs, and everybody just going out on them on a high note. And they're a great team, but you look at this game, it's a tough spot. Like, you have the defending Super Bowl champions at home, essentially defending their turf, defending their banner. And, the Rams are healthy, like all the talk. Matthew Stafford's out there. He's healthy. Like he practiced all preseason. Maybe that'll be an issue later in the season, but I'm not really worried about it tonight. And then you've got Tre'Davious White out against like the best wide receiver in the league. And I just think that when you look at what the Rams can bring, that defensive line, just putting pressure up the middle on Josh Allen, I really think this line leans more heavy towards the Rams. I don't love it as a bet because it's not like I want to go out of my way to bet against the Bills, but I think that the Rams are the bet here too on the line. You can take them 2.5, you can pay up to 3, you can even take them the money line, play it how you want, but I would lean Rams here as well.
What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I think it's fair logic. And I mean, when I listen to some of the guys talking about it on the sweat today, I know everybody is leaning towards the Rams, and I understand that, but I am leaning Bills in this one. I understand that the issue at corner too, that is definitely a big one, but my big doubt is with Stafford. I am actually a little bit more worried about it than Jeff is in the short term right now. And it could end up being a long-term issue, moving forward. And look, I get that the Rams were great as underdogs last season. They were good at home against the spread. Actually, no, at home against the spread, they were 5-6 last year, and they were 10-11 against the spread throughout the entirety of the season. No, that's not correct. I got that wrong, that last number, because that doesn't add up right. But you get the point. They weren't that great against the spread, and I understand that they're underdogs, so they're getting the points in this one. But I see this game, and Jeff's talking about like it should be a pick 'em, right? But still, 2.5 points. All right, we're looking at a field goal here. I mean, how often are we going to? I just don't think in this game we're going to go and see it be a 1-point affair. I think it is going to be decided by a field goal. And I think when looking at with Josh Allen, what the Bills have to prove coming right out the gates, I feel very comfortable with what they have, the weapons that they have, and what they're going to do on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't think it's going to be I think it'll be close still, but I still feel very comfortable in saying that they're going to win by a field goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a closer game throughout. I don't think this one's going to get out of hand on either side. I think if, some of the betting information, they were, to your point, they were talking about it on the sweat earlier today, the fact that under Sean McVay in his 5 years with the Rams, the Rams are 5-0 I think what is it? The 5-0 they in
week
they haven't
one,
lost at home. Covered all of them, as well. So great. That doesn't really sway me. It's less that, it's more so the fact that I just think this is such a big spot for the Bills. Like the Rams, we already know who they are, what they've been, who they have in terms of Cup, and obviously the weapons around them. I think it's a huge spot for Allen Robinson, something we'll talk about in a little bit. For the Bills, I think it's more pressure, not just the fact that they're on the road, obviously in prime time and everybody's watching, but the fact that they are just such consensus favorites among the people to go out and win the Super Bowl this year after not even, reaching the Super Bowl, obviously last year, and are coming into this situation where, like Jeff said, there's no Tre'Davious White, so they're without their best defender, at least in terms of the secondary. Yes, you have your offense, and we know how dangerous Josh Allen is and Stephon Diggs is. I'm still sort of, even with Devin Singletary, I'm skeptical of that run game in general. I just think there's that extra element of pressure going into this one. The Bills really have not yet had to face yet in the sense of announcing their presence right at the start of a regular season the way they have to. And what's going to be a hostile environment, the Super Bowl banner and seeing the trophy and all of that for the Rams. It's not that I think the Bills are going to be bad this year or anything like that, or they're not in that same contender conversation. I just think they're going to disappoint tonight.
So I do agree, like looking at it from the long view. By the way, I just double checked my stat. That was factoring in the postseason. I just want to make sure that we were clarified on that. So that's the entirety of the year, 10-11 against spread, the Rams were. But look, I look at this season and I think the Bills, I do have question marks just because I don't think that they can sustain this throughout the entirety of the season because of the pressure that they have on them right now. Yes, are they going to go and win the conference? Sure. But like we've heard for years when the Patriots were good, that the division is terrible. There's always one good team and that's pretty much it. Maybe a second team will find its way in like the Patriots did last year. I don't know if it's even going to be them. But coming into tonight with all the hype that's around them and then looking what happened at them at the end of the year last year. And then I think I'm more worried about Stafford's like health than most other people are. I guess I'm taking that into account a little bit more so than everybody else, other than maybe, I guess, the odds makers right now. But that's one of the biggest things that's driving me right now. Yes, you have the issue at corner, and I think it could be a good night for Allen Robinson. And looking at his anytime touchdown score prop, he's at plus 140 right now. So pretty good odds there on that one. I think with Cooper Kupp's at minus 140 over on that one. That is something, though, I am interested in. But still, I just don't. I don't feel good like backing a guy like Stafford who does sometimes make mistakes when he's dealing with some level of an injury.
Jeff, so let's take a look at whether it's a player prop that jumps out at you, or obviously we can get into DFS. DraftKings is offering the season opening Thursday night millionaire contest as well. So I know there's already about 25,000 people in it, and there are going to be that many more, obviously. Who's your ideal captain? Whether it's a guy that you just think is positioned well salary wise, or you think he's just going to go absolutely nuts. Cooper Kupp is going to be popular. Josh Allen's going to be popular. Allen Robinson, who Nick was just talking about, is, Bukes and Edlow this morning on the Sweat said that's the easy choice at captain, given what his salary is at. And obviously Nick was looking at the anytime scorer prop. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Allen Robinson's like the easy choice at captain when in a game where you have Diggs, Allen, Kupp to go to, right? I mean, that's assuming a lot from Allen Robinson. Mm-hmm. I'll be dead honest. I mean, I think there's, there is just having a star-studded game. I mean, there's a lot of ways to go. I think that if you can get up to Josh Allen, and I think you can in this game, because I think there's enough value with where Allen Robinson is and with where guys, further down are. Obviously, we have some injuries like Van Jefferson being out, opens up Ben Skoranek. Isaiah McKenzie is going to play. He's way too cheap, in my opinion. Like Allen can be captain. I think that's kind of the ideal situation, but you can get exposure to Allen by captaining Steph Diggs as well. It's a little bit more boom or bust play. Like for Diggs, he's not as guaranteed with the volume, but there's a lot of scenarios. If I like the Rams, I mean, Diggs could obviously, just end up with more late game targets as well versus prevent. So getting up to Allen, I think would be ideal, but playing the receivers in this game is kind of where I feel like you should be going, whether it's Diggs, Kupp, or even McKenzie. I really do think Isaiah McKenzie has plenty of appeal. I think he's got enough upside to play at the captain spot. Like again, the slot receiver against the Rams when the Bills played them went for 6 and 100. Cole Beasley, and 22nd against in defensive DVOA defending against the slot receiver last year. The Rams, like it's a weak spot in their offense and defense, and I think Isaiah McKenzie can exploit that tonight. So he's a player I'm obviously very interested in, but ideally you get up to Josh Allen. He's the most explosive player, and go from there.
So before we go to you, Nick, you presented a lot of options there, Jeff, obviously, and a good case outlining many of them, but do you have a specific favorite?
Me or Nick?
You, before we go to Nick.
I mean, like if you're playing one lineup, I mean, it's showdown, right? So like,
Right.
it's hard for, I don't think you should ever get into showdown and be so confident, be like, I got to play this guy captain. This game is, for me, would be hard. Like it would be hard for me to sit and say, you have to play this player, you have to play this player. If I'm playing one lineup, I would probably go with Isaiah Mckenzie. I really would. I think that there's enough there. And I think that there he'll get enough volume where you can come back and then you can get exposure to all the different players. But the same time, you can just use like Isaiah McKenzie in your flex and fit in Josh Allen as well. So I'll say Josh Allen. That's the guy I think you should be captaining.
Well, Mckenzie is the Bills slot guy, so obviously he should get a lot of attention. But Nick, which direction are you going to go?
Yeah, I mean, look, the case for Allen Robinson is a really, really good one, I think. And when you look at some of the values that you have here, it makes a lot of sense. And you could still have Allen Robinson and Josh Allen on your lineup. And look, when it comes down to it, I mean, Jeff makes good points all around. I mean, Josh Allen, I do think is a guy who you should be considering. To me, it's Robinson, Allen, Kupp in that order for my top three guys when we're talking about captains. But of course, those last two guys are pretty expensive. But when you're looking for value too, there are ways where you can go and get Robinson. Again, he's going to save you some money. And then to go and feature maybe a Kupp or an Allen or both, you look at like a guy like James Cook, who is supposed to be looks like he's second on the depth chart for the Bills right now. And he's going to be their pass catching guy. Look, I have Singletary in season long. I would have liked to also pick up Cook just in case. But I do, because I do like Cook and I think he has a ton of potential. Of course, he's got the family genes and everything like that. You would think he can go and have a little bit of that explosiveness too. But then another guy too, that I know, I don't like giving Steve Buchanan too much credit, but I think that he was
Resist,
right on.
if you can.
Yeah.
Resist if you can.
Well, okay. I heard from somebody that someone highlighted earlier today that Skoronek, I never say his name right.
Skoronek.
But what?
Ben Skoronek.
Skoronek. Thank you. And Atwell's another guy too.
This is something if you're taking pronunciation tips from Jeff too.
Yeah, that's not good.
Well, I mean, Massachusetts and Canada, I mean, well, we butcher the English language all the time. But anyways, Skoronek and Atwell are two guys that are sub 2K tonight. They've both been getting a lot of work in, looking to be like wide receiver threes for them right now. No Van Jefferson playing tonight. So like there's a ton of value between those two. I'm not sure where I want to go between those two, but those guys are going to save you a ton of money. As Skoronek is 1.8K as a flex, and I think Atwell is only 1K. So those two guys and then Cook, if you can mix those three together in some capacity, I wouldn't do both of those Rams receivers, but maybe you mix in Cook, you mix in, Atwell, then you can look at like Robinson and then two of those other big names probably on your lineup tonight.
Is this the key, Jeff, to differentiation and actually trying to win the million versus obviously having to split it with 200 people?
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, again, like I think that's why, Josh Allen to me kind of does stick out as that stud that if you're going to be paying up for a stud, you should be paying up for it because like Tutu Atwell's definitely does. I think Ben Skoronek has a better floor than Atwell. Skoronek went for like 4 catches in the Super Bowl with no Tyler Higbee. Higbee's back, but there's no Van Jefferson now. Atwell, I think, is more of like a gadget player where they'll use him. Maybe we get lucky and we get a carry. But you might need him to just kind of like break that play. Like you just go for that 40-yarder or something, maybe even find the end zone to really pay off. I think Skoronek can get there in multiple different ways. So that's how I look at those two guys. But they're both playable. Like they're both viable options. And that just helps you with your Josh Allen captain's lineup so much. So as far as Cook goes, that's probably a player I would personally stay away from. I'd almost lean Zach Moss and just go for like the touchdown upside there. I just don't know how much we're going to see James Cook. I could be completely wrong on that. I just get the feeling that this is just going to be a swing and a miss by the fantasy community. And he's a rookie running back and he's just not going to see the field much. But I think that speaks to like just the whole Bills RB situation. Like just nobody really knows what's going to happen tonight. Like Singletary could just dominate the snaps. Singletary could take like 4 snaps. I don't really know. I don't think that anybody really has a great feel on this. I think that the main thing with the Bills, and this is why, again, come back to Josh Allen, they don't like Josh Allen is essentially the red zone back. So just captain him. You get the red zone opportunities in the rushing, you get the passing upside, and then you come back with the Rams receivers because that's where we know like the ball is going. We know Skoronek, Atwell going to be on the field. We know Allen Robinson has a good matchup, and that's where you can be a little bit more decisive.
I
Which is
think
why
Jeff
Devin
raises a
Singletary will be on my season-long bench tonight, folks.
I do think Jeff raises a fair point about the concern, like when it comes to their backfield. There's no question about it. I mean, I drafted Singletary in season long, and I'm kind of sweating a little bit after that move. It was late, like he's like my number 3, so it's kind of okay. But when you look at Moss versus Cook tonight, he raises a fair point, and there's only $200 difference between the two. So I mean, my thing would be whichever one you're leaning more towards going into tonight. If you have the ability to go and run multiple lineups in this contest, I think having one where you're aggressively trying to use either Moss and Cook, and then using either Atwell or Skoranek, again, probably saying it wrong, but you mix those two guys in, then we're looking at a lot of the big names that you can get in. And I think that is a way that you can differentiate yourself and then still go with one of Jeff's lineups where you're talking about Josh Allen starting at the top, and then maybe only one of those super value guys in your lineup.
So to that point, when it comes to who do we pay up for, pardon me, and there are a lot of options, obviously, in this game. Cooper Kupp and Josh Allen's the highest projected score, although, as we know, like Kupp can destroy a slate. Diggs as well. Stafford is obviously a compelling play. You could, depending on how cute you want to get in your captain spot and your other flex spot, you could put all 4 of those guys in your lineup if you really wanted to. But if I'm presuming that you're going to fade, let's say one of them, Jeff, or at least one of them, who's it going to be?
For which two? Sorry, just
for among the the studs tonight. So the 2 quarterbacks and the 2 star receivers.
Yeah. So I mean, like Steph Diggs is again like it's far more decisive on the Rams side of the field. I mean, like I guess something could happen and Cooper Kupp doesn't get goes for like 5 and like 50 or something, or like 4 and 50 yards, but it's not likely to happen. Allen Robinson going to get that secondary coverage. Like there's just, without Van Jefferson there's just not much to worry about here. Maybe we see Tyler Higbee even show up, but like on the Bills side, there's just far more volatility with their receivers. Diggs is still going to get the targeting, but like obviously he's got Ramsey on him. I've already talked about how much I like Isaiah McKenzie, but like Jamison Crowder could get involved too. We haven't talked about Gabe Davis. Like the ball can kind of go anywhere here. So, Diggs is a player where I think that, if I was making 10 lineups, I would definitely have some Diggs captain exposure for the simple fact that you get upside from Allen, but you also are I think Diggs will be like the lowest owned stud. And there's a reason why. It's because, people are probably thinking the same exact theory as me, right? Why would I pay up for Diggs when I get exposure to Josh Allen through Isaiah McKenzie or Gabe Davis? So Diggs fits in as like the fade candidate. I'm not as high on Allen Robinson as other people, but like his salary does kind of force you to play him a little bit. I think that if you are going to pivot off of Allen Robinson, play Tyler Higbee. I think we've seen Sean McVay dial up game plans for Tyler Higbee before. We've seen him be pretty productive too. And like he's a player who could easily just, he could find the end zone, and maybe Allen Robinson goes for like 5 catches and 50 yards and Higbee goes for like 440 and a touchdown. And then all of a sudden the Higbee lineups are in. So like that's one way that I think you can pivot off what I expect to be a very chalky Allen Robinson. And then again, if you are getting some Diggs exposure, if you have multiple lineups, make one Diggs captain lineup. That kind of gives you like some leverage on the field there, because if he does go off, maybe he's not in that many lineups, but at least you have one captain lineup to work off of.
So who's your stud fade, Nick?
Jeff really put that very well on all honesty.
Thank you.
I mean,
I appreciate that.
I mean, Diggs is the guy who jumps out, and sure, like you'd love to trust him in this spot, but you just don't know what they're going to come, because they got so many options on the other side of the ball. But yeah, Higbee is a guy that I was like, I like, he's kind of on that fringe for me right now, because again, like there are other options, and not having Van Jefferson in there does open things up for him a little bit, but that's kind of why I'm leaning more towards those low end guys. But yeah, Diggs is the guy right now who I don't really have a whole heck of a lot of interest in going into this one. I mean, just in general, I don't have much interest in the ground game across the board either in this game. I know I talked about Cook, but again, it's just because of the value he presents. And if you want to go with Moss, either way, it's kind of the same difference to me. Like they're really cheap, but then you look at some of the other guys available. It's just like, I'd rather go with the wide receivers. I feel a little bit more comfortable going with them, getting those touches.
I mean, and the only thing to like add on here at the end is that you can make super contrarian lineups in this game by just like stacking running backs on both sides. Like you don't even have to really go on both sides. You can just kind of, you get Darrell Henderson in there, maybe you get Singletary in there. I don't even know if you have to captain them. Just using them is probably going to make you contrarian. I think most people here realize like these are pass first teams with elite wide receiver combos, and And, that's where most people are going to be targeting today.
100%.
How do we feel about Cam Akers tonight? Given that, we're talking about two teams with obviously an uncertain rotation or backfield depth.
I'll tell you what, when I'm getting ready for the show and everything and looking and trying to get things set tonight, and then also listening to other people talk about it coming into this game, is just a guy who for me, just scroll right past him. I have zero interest in him tonight. And I'm not hearing anybody else mention him. I feel like we're giving him more attention than anybody has all week.
Yeah. And that's always a little bit like disconcerting, right? Like that, Akers is probably like the lead backfield and team like the Rams, but
right.
I legitimately think we might see like as much or more Darrell Henderson tonight. Like I really do. Just the vibe I'm getting, I don't know. Like it sounds like the team might just be wanting to like make this finally. I know McVay generally like really likes to lean on one guy, but it kind of sounds like maybe we're finally going to get like a true split here. I don't think the team is very confident in Cam Akers. I don't think they like what they saw from last year. I think they realize they've got kind of like damaged goods. That's just the vibe I'm getting though. This is again, like both backfields tonight. This is just like, it's kind of like two headaches. Like you can't even target one running back because both sides are like, there's just, you just throw up your hands. You're like, yeah, we'll probably see more Cam Akers, but there's definitely a situation where Henderson starts well and like we see more him. And then the other side is just like, Singletary was so good down the stretch, but they've drafted another running back. Zach Moss was good in the preseason. No idea. So I think that if you wanted to make a stance, what I would lean Henderson and Singletary as guys like not going to be highly owned. You want to make a contrarian lineup. Those are the guys I would lean with, but we could sit here and probably make a case for all five of these running backs.
Sat here obviously and talked, Stephon Diggs, what he's capable of. And we all know we've been watching him for years. Obviously Isaiah McKenzie could be a very good lower price play. Is Gabe Davis, has he arrived at a point where we just have weekly expectations for him now, Nick?
Yeah. I'm not as high on him as everybody else is. Like, so no, I guess the answer for me is no, that I don't have the same weekly expectations for him as everybody else does. He's going to be a solid guy and definitely someone you can turn to on certain weekends. But for me, no, I think, Jeff kind of laid it out pretty well when we're talking about the Bills. Like they have a lot of options on this lineup. Like there's only one guy who, is going to have the ball in his hands all the time. And it's the quarterback. So to me, yeah, I think he's shown some stuff and he could go and take that big next step this year, but he's still got Diggs ahead of him and that could help him in some capacity. Sure. Because it's taking attention off him, of course, and everything, but I'm not like in love with him. Like I feel like everybody else is, and like, the prices on DraftKings would indicate they have.
Jeff? Yeah.
I like Gabe Davis. Like I like him long-term. I like him this season. I do think he's going to have a good year. I really do. I don't see a reason why this offense can't support like two top end wide receivers. But I'm just not sure if this is like I have realistic expectations for him tonight. I don't have big expectations for him tonight. I really don't. I think that the Rams are just a tough coverage team. I think that Buffalo, if they're going to be moving the ball, it's going to be like, a quick outside movement, like with guys like Mckenzie, maybe even the running backs. Maybe they do get James Cook involved. Again, not really sure, but I don't necessarily see this as like a great Gabe Davis game. If he is going to get probably not see Jalen Ramsey though, like he'll get the off coverage. So that's nice, but the Rams kind of, they're just good in coverage. Like the Raheem Morris's defense is kind of just what they do well, right? So you're kind of just running into the teeth of the defense here with the guys on the outside. I don't know. Like I would probably I actually think he's probably a good fade candidate tonight. Like between him and Diggs, I feel like Davis will get more ownership anyways. So again, like I would make that contrarian Diggs lineup probably before I went with a Gabe Davis captain spot. But it's the Bills, man. This is an explosive team and I think it happens. So the Bills are they're kind of a headache right now. For this game, because we don't have enough. We haven't really seen what Davis is necessarily going to do against tough teams. We in this role. So I think that fading him is fine. I think that going with the value options with like Mckenzie over him is good. And yeah, I still think you have to treat Steph Diggs as the true wide receiver one right now.
What I'm hearing from Jeff right now is Cook is looking better and better to him as we talk about this more and more.
So guys, when it comes to
Cook is
go ahead. But when it comes to
No, I was just gonna
value,
say Cook is viable. That's all I was gonna say.
well, yeah, he also might not get a snap.
This is
Yep.
true.
Might not touch the ball.
Got to risk it to get the biscuit.
Yeah.
There's
When
a few
it's,
guys in this game like that though. So
and that can be how you win these things, obviously. So you're competing against remember, tens of thousands of other people. When it comes to value, I mean, we've mentioned everybody, whether it's Isaiah McKenzie, obviously, the two kickers, even we haven't mentioned them, but those are always kind of viable in showdown formats. Tutu Atwell, Ben Skoranek, clearly. Cook is a little bit higher priced than a true value, but if you had to identify, Nick, a favorite punt play, who would it be?
I think it's between Skoranek and Atwell for me. I mean, just because they're cheaper than Cook. And I understand, like, for all that I'm saying about Cook, like, there is a little bit more uncertainty, I feel like, with him than the other two. And you're getting more savings with these two guys. Skoranek has, like, shown, like, that he can do some stuff in the past. I probably guess I'd lean more towards him. Part of my, like, problem is I wonder if he's going to be the ultimate favorite value play tonight. So that's where I'm, like, between him and Atwell. So I guess I got to go Skoranek. I think he's going to end up doing a little better. I think he's going to see the field a little more, get more touches, have more opportunities. So he ends up being my guy. Again, it's talking about, $800 in savings between the two. So it's just like, who's going to produce more? I think it's going to be him.
Jeff, you feeling the same way?
yeah, I mean, look, what about Brandon Powell? I mean, wide receiver 5.
Yeah.
I mean, look, like, people are going to be using Skoranek and Atwell, and Skoranek should be more popular. I think, again, people are just going to look, oh, he played in the Super Bowl. Tutu Atwell, I mean, I don't even know what his, like, career high was from last season, but he didn't do much. And I haven't really seen much from him on the field. Like I said, he's kind of a gadget player. I would almost bypass Atwell if people are going to go there. And I would go with Powell. I mean, he's going to be on there for kicks. Why not? I mean, you get some special team exposure. It's $200. That's obviously, like, the very highly contrarian move. I mean, there's tons of boom or bust there, but he's at least, going to be out there potentially touching the ball a little bit. So that is always interesting when you have a player like that, especially in a game like this where, Van Jefferson's absence has created at least some kind of opportunity for guys like that. But my overall favorite play under 3,000 is Isaiah McKenzie. This is a player I just feel like very strongly about. It's a great situation. He's mispriced. I'm not, we'll see what his ownership ends up being. I'm not even sure if it's going to be high enough because people will be potentially afraid of the Jameson Crowder situation, but yeah, I like that. And then obviously, we haven't talked about the defenses either. I mean, these are pretty elite defenses, especially the Rams. Like, you could even play like a Josh Allen captain spot and come back with the Rams in your flex. I mean, like, it's doable. Like, if the Bills get down, the Rams get a couple special team scores, or just even one or something like that. I mean, all of a sudden they pay off. So I'd probably look there rather than the kickers. And, but yeah, there's definitely enough, like, viable options down there that I'm not big on either of the kickers for this game.
I brought up, you guys are seeing it, receiver for the Bills, who, again, may not even get a snap tonight, but $200, Khalil Shakir. Is he a guy that we should be considering as a potential punt play?
You can go as deep as you want in showdown. I mean, if you're, Shakir, again, like, very much like Cook, he's got even less of a chance of actually, like, getting on the field and doing something. But you don't need him to do much. I mean, you need like one catch, really. I mean, and if the catch ends up going for something big, then obviously you're laughing. But it's highly volatile. I have no idea how much like a rookie wide receiver is going to be involved. But he had a strong preseason. He's attached to Josh Allen, which is great. Yeah. It's viable. Like, he's in play, right?
Nick, do you think this one's hitting 52 tonight?
See, I was thinking about that when Jeff was talking about the defenses before. I was like, part of me feels like that I'd rather go with the kickers in this one. But no, like, when you're looking at the total 52, it's like, no, I don't think it's going to reach that. I still think it's going to be the under.
Jeff?
I don't really have a hard take on the total. I think once it got down to like 51.5, I kind of leaned back towards the over.
Yeah, because it wasn't what, 54?
I think it was a 53.5 or something. It may have gotten to 54. I don't know. I know it was up there. It was a 52.5, 53 or something. So it's come down. Like, I think at 51.5, the over is definitely like where I would lean, but the total's not super play for me. still two good defenses. Like you do have the elite again, like the quarterbacks here, but yeah, not a huge play for me. I like the prop. I do like a couple props. Like Isaiah McKenzie,
Same.
I think is a good over. He's down to 29.5 on DraftKings. So I don't know, maybe Jamison Crowder getting some late game hype here, but I still like Mckenzie, even if he is splitting a little bit. Seen Mckenzie in that role have a lot of success. I like the call that Nick made about Allen Robinson, anytime score plus 140, maybe even looked in for first score. I think that's super, super nice. I mean, again, the Rams running the ball is just like, was such a disaster towards the end of last year. I think that that's a fine number on Robinson. So those are two props that I'm pretty interested in. I mentioned like where I'm leaning for the game line, but this one for me, I think just, DFS props is kind of where I'm leaning. These early season lines too, they tend to get like they've already got the extra time to build in. They're really efficient. Week 2 is where we can really, smoke these point spreads, in my opinion. This one, again, I think the Rams are a little bit undervalued, but I'd really prefer if you get them at +3.
See, what's funny, just going off of what you were just talking about, going back to, full circle with the show, I think the Rams are going to win. I like the Rams at 2.5. I think the Bills are actually going to score first.
Okay.
Like a Josh Allen rushing touchdown to start the game wouldn't shock me in the least.
I can see that. Yeah. But when you're talking about props for me personally, so obviously the Robinson one that I was talking about before, I was messing around with the same game parlay function too on DraftKings Sportsbook. Because I do try and do that with quarterbacks, especially like try and get them at a lower number on their passing yardage, get a lower number on their touchdowns, and see if we can get something at a reasonable price. Like I'm not doing the same game parlays that we highlight over on DraftKings Nation, where it's like these ridiculous things where it's like $10 turned into like 50K or whatever. But a nice little one is Josh Allen over, over 254.5 passing yards. Josh Allen 1 passing touchdown, and then Allen Robinson to get 50 or more yards. That's plus 130. And those were all depleted numbers for those guys when you're looking at the regular straight up over-unders on those props. So you can mess around with it however you want, try and move things up a little bit, but plus 130, that's a good win.
Yeah, no, you'll take that happily. Some other NFL news before we do get out of here, though. Christian McCaffrey added to the injury report. Shin, who's still a full participant in practice. He's still expected to start this weekend. Just some early, heart palpitations for people that drafted him, 1 or 2 in their season-long leagues, obviously. What are we expecting from McCaffrey this year? Should this scare anybody this early, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, it should. It doesn't sound like a huge deal, but like, you don't want any lingering anything with Christian McCaffrey right now. Anything to do with his legs, any lingering, that's not good. So yeah, it's definitely, unfortunately, like it's monitor time, right? Like who knows, is this going to turn into like some kind of fracture, like some kind of like stress fracture? Yeah. I mean, look, football season's here, man. I mean, this is like the stuff that's going to pop up every day from here until the end of like January, basically. So it's not great. Like, honestly, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Some people say, it's no big deal. It's a guy who's missed a ton of games. I'm not going to throw around injury prone, because every single football player can have poor and good injury luck. But, we have seen there are like running backs, especially once they start to get like these nicks, and they just come more frequently. So I don't know. I'm certainly not writing Christian McCaffrey off. He was the number 2 overall pick. He deserved to be. You should have taken him there in your drafts, but like, sucks. I mean, you just hope this is like really minor and it goes away quick, but it sounds like it's going to be a week to week thing now at this point already.
I'm in 4 season-long leagues, and I had multiple opportunities to take McCaffrey, and I passed every time. The guy just scares me. And maybe I'll get burnt by it.
Well, you're an idiot for not taking him, but whatever. Anyways,
nope, I agree with that move, Adam.
He just now I probably went in too hard on Austin Eckler, and I need him to have a phenomenal year. But McCaffrey just frightens me. I don't trust him.
I mean, how can you not? Like, he could bounce back this week and then and be fine, and then the next week you don't know. Like if you have him this season, if you took him at number 2, like you're gonna have white hairs by like all over your head by the end of the season. There's no way you're going to, I feel immensely uncomfortable with this guy every single year. So no, like this is a terrible sign. Like Jeff's saying it's not good. No, it's terrible. I think it's just going to be a thing for him all season long. Maybe not this specific thing, but it's just going to be more of what we've gotten with him. Like, and if you see him play 1 week, I still don't trust him. Then the next week I might trust him a little bit like that. Like I need to see a week where I'm comfortable with him. So I'm just staying away from him by and large. Again, he's a contrarian guy. You could, I guess, go with maybe if most people are thinking like me, but yeah, I don't trust him whatsoever.
DFS is a different story. Yeah.
Totally different story. Yeah.
You can definitely take a week breather on Christian McCaffrey or get low exposure to him week one. Yeah. I think that's reasonable.
The Niners, by the way, who are some people's Super Bowl picks, George Kittle has now missed 2 straight days of practice. Is this the beginning of the end for this guy? I mean, obviously last year wasn't phenomenal for him in the first place. And now, starting off a little, I'm not going to say sideline necessarily, but sidetracked to begin this year. What do we, that once upon a time, it was Kelsey, it was Kittle. Like these were not long ago. These were your clear cut top tight ends in the NFL. We're not there anymore, are we?
No.
Kittle took a step back last year. The injuries stink. He's still really good when he's out there, but as a season long play, I mean, I regret I probably grabbed him too much in my best ball lineups, but he does offer good upside. But yeah, I mean, he is a player I don't have a problem saying, he's injury prone because of the way, and I think it's more because of the way Kittle plays, which is just all out on every play, blocking downfield, taking contact on. So that I don't have a problem with. And you worry a little bit, like he missed so much time last year that if he just can't stay on the field, it's not good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you can look at this and feel good about the situation at all. I mean, the thing that really stinks is still like where everybody's all hyped up about Trey Lance coming into the year. And I would have loved to see what he could do with him, just because in general, for a young quarterback, having a talented tight end like that, a guy who you can trust, a big body to throw to and everything, I feel like they could have done some great stuff together. They still could, but I don't feel good about it at all right now.
One more for you guys. Many have been excited about Rondale Moore coming into the season with Arizona, with DeAndre Hopkins out the first half dozen games. Turns out Moore got hurt today at practice, hamstring injury. He's going to have an MRI to determine the severity of that injury. So week one, anyway, who knows long-term what this means, but week one, Jeff, Hollywood season, is that where we're at?
So first of all, this stinks. Rondale Moore is a player I think was very, very undervalued in drafts, about to inherit 100 targets from Christian Kirk's departure because he was specifically playing the slot. I think he may even been better than Christian Kirk. So it stinks. Maybe pick him up when people drop him or something and stash him. But yeah, as far as week one goes, he was also basically projected to be perhaps the chalkiest player of week one. So this is already kind of throwing things on its head. Hollywood Brown now probably going to gain that title. I mean, that's just not a player I trust, quite frankly. I think AJ Brown and really you could go dumpster diving with down the Arizona chart. There's players that Cliff Kingsbury has had involved at various points. Anton Wesley is certainly there, still there. Yeah. So, I mean, it's, I think AJ Green is probably I'm not excited about it, but he's probably going to see the most reliable for targets. Marquise Brown is certainly going to be there too. But this one kind of stinks because I think Moore was trending towards being a good value, even if it was going to be chalky, but I don't know now. I feel like this game could just almost get out of hand and you could see just, Arizona put up a stinker and all these guys stink, but AJ Green is where I would lean. I think that Marquise Brown could just see a boatload of targets and may just be viable regardless. But Green and Brown, I guess bump them up. They're just going to be insanely popular now. So
yeah, and with Moore too, he is a guy, if you have your IR spot and season long, definitely a guy, if you can slide him in there, that would be great. But I hamstrings, the two injuries that always worry me the most with any athletes, is outside of the major ones, if we're talking it's a small thing, hamstrings and obliques, those things always end up seeming worse than they actually were. And then just because a guy comes back does not mean he's fully ready. It's like always, it can be a nagging thing throughout the entire season and maybe even bleed into next year. Hamstrings can be even worse than obliques in that regard. So, I mean, like, I'm looking at it thinking with this Moore news, it's like, oh, do I maybe want to try and get him on my IR spot? But it's like, I just don't know. Like, it's a worthwhile roll of the dice, but at the same time, it's just a guy who is going to be hard to trust. Like, if this becomes a long-term thing.
And I mean, just quickly, like, I completely forgot Wesley's on IR, Anton Wesley. So like, he was like the number 4 guy. We're looking at like Marquise Brown, AJ Green. Zach Ertz has not practiced this week.
Nope.
Rookie Trey McBride is like going to be viable here. And then we're looking at like Greg Dortch, Andy Isabella could be on the field. Like God, Andy Isabella, I guess is like back in the mix here because we are so far down the depth chart here for Arizona. Like this is like Max Williams could be viable, man. Like, I don't know. Like this is, dear God, man. Anyways, we got to go.
All right. Well, producer Eamon saying it's about that time. There are no Madden Sims, but there is a Rainmakers stream tonight. You should check out 7:00 Eastern time. Our thanks to Eamon, to Andrew, our technical director, and us. Football has returned, folks. We're only, a little shy of 2 hours away from lineup lock. So looking forward to that. And hopefully somebody out there listening wins the $1 million off of what you heard here today. And if you did, at least report back to us. You don't need to buy us a meal, but hop in the chat and let us know that you did well. We're rooting for you. All right, Nick, thanks for hopping on. Moose, always a pleasure. I'm Kaufman. See you later. Full football outlook on week 1 tomorrow.